Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We will begin the webinar shortly. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ryan Keene. I'm the Vice President of Lending here at Ardent Credit Union. Just wanted to welcome you to this evening's workshop. We have done several workshops since March, most of them virtually. And while we have the process down pretty well, we do occasionally run into some technical issues. So I just wanted to ask that everyone just be patient if we happen to run into a little bit of a delay. I'm sure we'll get it fixed pretty quickly. We also know that everyone has a lot going on in their lives right now. So if there is anything that we can help out with, please don't hesitate to give the credit union a call. I also wanted to briefly talk about the credit union's Lend a Paul line of credit. It's a product that we have created specifically for pet-related expenses, something you can check out on the credit union's website at ardentcu.org/pet loans. If you do need to ask a question during tonight's workshop, please click the questions tab and type in your question. The photo to the left is the screen of an iPad, and the photo to the right is the screen of the desktop. We have Lisa from Ardent's marketing department on the line who will relay the questions to Deb during the seminar. There will be a Q&A session after the workshop. If you are viewing the workshop from a smartphone, you will have to swipe right to see the PowerPoint. Also, this workshop is being recorded and will be uploaded to Ardent's website within the next few days. Now I'll pass this over to Deb Murray, Certified Canine Behavior Consultant and Dog Trainer and owner of Pepper Paws LLC, to get the workshop started.
Thanks, Ryan, and thanks for having me back. Tonight, we're going to talk about a fun topic that is top of mind for a lot of folks, I'm sure. And I can't change this. Oh, there we go. Okay. So tonight, during the pandemic, we've had a lot of folks who have gotten new dogs. Make sure the video's on. There we go. We have a lot of people in our area who have adopted new dogs, gone to breeders and gotten new dogs, and they're beginning to struggle a little bit with the responsibility of dog ownership and dealing with problem behaviors. A lot of the puppies are now teenagers, so they're hitting some trouble points. So tonight, we're going to talk about reasons why dogs misbehave. We're going to talk about what is misbehaving and what is not actually misbehaving. We're going to talk about how to stop contributing to the dog's bad behavior. A lot of times we do things as dog owners that actually make the problem worse, and we think they're making it better. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk about ways to break some of your dog's bad habits, things you can work on specifically for the most common reasons why people come to a trainer for help. So I'm going to give you some things to get started on with your dog. The first thing I want to discuss, though, before we get into reasons that we think our dog is having a problem, I want to talk about some medical things you should discuss with your vet that could be causing or underpinning your dog's challenging behaviors. Okay, a lot of times there's medical things that aren't right, that we need to get them fixed before you do anything with training. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. Okay. First of all, I am not a veterinarian. I cannot diagnose, treat, or prescribe anything for medical behavior. I'm going to go through some things that I have encountered with my clients and with my dogs that were resolved by a vet appointment or medication or vet consultation. Okay. The first one, this one is very particularly pertinent for puppies and rescue dogs, and that is parasites, worms, and bacteria. If your dog is not feeling well because they have parasites or worms or bacteria, they could have struggles with house training. They could have struggles with peeing or pooping in the crate. They could have struggles with barking. They could be poop eaters. And sometimes if the dog is not digesting their food properly, the dog eats their poop because there's actually still food in it. And that needs to be addressed with a veterinarian. One thing that happened earlier this week that I just want to share with you, I have a client who has an adorable little puppy. She's had him for about 2 weeks now. 2 months now. The veterinarian did a fecal test on the puppy when she brought it home. It was wormed. Everything seemed fine. And then 2 months or so into life with the puppy started barking like crazy every time she went in the kitchen, demand barking like ridiculously, brand new behavior. And we talked about, is the dog getting enough food? Was the dog hungry? And I confirmed again, was the fecal test clear? Yes, everything's fine. So I gave her some things to work on. The next day, she informed me that the puppy actually had worms. And when you have worms or parasites on board, those organisms are stealing nutrients from the dog, and that can make a dog hungry, which explained the barking in the kitchen. If your dog is in pain, common sources of pain that I've encountered with my clients, ears, hips, handling issues. If your dog has an ear infection, you go to pet their ears, you might get snapped at. That's not an aggression problem, that's a medical problem that your vet needs to diagnose and treat. Same thing with hips. I had a German Shepherd client one time who, when they touched the dog's hips, he snapped at him. They went, oh, he's being dominant. No, he had hip dysplasia. The vet confirmed that, or vet diagnosed that, and then they treated that. Even reactivity, so barking at dogs or people on the street, can have things going on medical that can be a source of pain or discomfort, or diet, or it can be a medication the dog's on. So you need to talk to your vet about that. Allergies. I see more and more dogs and puppies that come to me and their vet has diagnosed them with allergies. So with allergies, you have uncomfortable being handled. You have irritability. You might have reactions to medicines or adverse events from medicines or just side effects. That's all things you need to really bottom out with your vet before you approach it as a behavior problem. Here's a couple of things just to note. If you see these things, talk to your vet, not your dog trainer. Don't ask, Dr. Vet on Facebook. Don't ask Dr. Google. If you see worms, and worms could look like spaghetti, it could look like rice. If you see blood or pus coming out of your dog in any way, shape, or form, take them to your vet. Sudden new aggression or a sudden behavior change. About 4 years ago, I noticed my senior dog Pepper wasn't coming when I called her, and she didn't want to get on the bed, and she always liked to get on the bed. And then she had an accident by the back door, and she literally hadn't had an accident in more years than I can even count. My plan that night had been to put her in the car and take her to the beach and go on the beach the next day and run her on the beach because she loves the beach. But the accident just didn't sit right. So I went to the vet. Long story short, she had a massive tumor. Had I taken her to the beach, I probably would have killed her on the beach. So anytime you see something that is completely like out of left field, something's awry, a lot of times it really pays to give your vet a call. Another one that falls into that same category, lack of interest or being stubborn, right? We say, oh, the dog's not interested in training, he's stubborn, he's being a jerk. That could also be called lethargy, and it can be a sign something is medically wrong. One of my guys, again, a couple of years ago, he was just laying around like a bum, didn't want to do anything. And I'm like, oh, what's going on with Shadow? What's he up to? Well, he ended up having a low thyroid. And when the vet diagnosed that and treated that, suddenly he's the life of the party and happy as a clam. So you want to really be careful about assigning blame from a behavior standpoint to your dog before you've considered, could it be something medical that your vet really needs to weigh in on? There's a principle in behavior I'm going to geek out for a second on before you. It's called Occam's razor, okay, or the law of parsimony. And basically what it means is a lot of times the most obvious explanation is the answer. Humans like to complicate things. We like to get emotional and try to get in the dog's head and what is the dog thinking? Well, behavior is lawful. There's always a reason why your dog does something. And when you can understand what that reason is, that's how you can solve it. Okay, hang on. Okay, so let's say it's nothing. We've ruled out everything medical. Everything's fine from a medical perspective. Your vet says your dog's good to go, or There was another more obvious explanation. So let's talk about things. First of all, one misconception I want to get out of the way. We think dogs want to please us. They're here on this earth to make us happy. It's cute, it's nice, and there are some dogs who just love their people and they'll do whatever they want. But the reality is dogs do what works for them, right? It's not that they're trying to be dominant. It's not they want to be in charge. They have needs, and to meet those needs, they'll do certain behavior type things. When I talk with a client who says their dog is misbehaving, their dog has, he suddenly is being a teenager or being a jerk or misbehaving, a lot of times it's lack of exercise. If your dog's not getting enough exercise, they have a lot of energy to put into things that maybe we don't want them to do. Lack of mental stimulation, that adage, every dog needs a job. There's really something to that, because every dog was put on this earth to do a job, and we have rendered them all unemployed and unemployable. Not many dogs have a job anymore. When you give them mental stimulation, you're basically giving them a job, and most dogs really enjoy that. A lot of times misbehavior comes down to we gave them too much freedom. I see this a lot with puppies. Your puppy comes in your house and you let him have the run of the place. And then we're stunned when he's chewing on the dining table leg. Well, he got out of sight. He found something good to chew on. It tasted good. It was fun. He had at it. So we have too much access to rooms in the house or too much time off leash. A lot of times we take a young dog and we think, oh, they stay around me. They're 4 or 5 months old in the yard. Let's take him to the park. And the dog's like, see ya, because now he's got more freedom and he hasn't earned that freedom, or she hasn't earned that freedom. And sometimes it just comes down to we've given them access to things they shouldn't have. For those of you with children in your home, a lot of times, your puppy, especially a puppy or a teenage dog, they can't tell the difference between a dog toy and a child's toy. They just know they both taste good and they're fun to play with. Well, play with anything. Sometimes just giving your dog a safe space to be so they can't get to things you don't want them to chew on can be the answer. Another one that I see a lot, and before I say this, let me kind of explain one thing about how I work with people. I don't blame people. I don't harass people. I don't hound people. I don't come in to be the alpha and I'm right and you're wrong. Okay. And if I ever make a statement that sounds like I'm being a smart aleck, I'm not. That's just kind of how it's going to sound, but it's not my intention. We don't train dogs to do what we want them to do. We just assume they magically know it. We assume that they're clairvoyant, they can read our minds. And the reality is the dog's just doing what works for them. Along similar lines, we can have very unrealistic expectations for dogs. We expect a dog to walk nice on a leash beside us because that's what we want, but we haven't trained it, and we've taken a dog somewhere they're really, really excited and it's wonderful, and suddenly we're like, why my dog won't do it? Well, we didn't teach them. And then the last one, it's fun. Sometimes dogs just do things because it's fun. Running away from you is probably a perfect example. You have a new dog, you're working on training, your dog figures out, I run away and they chase me. It's the most fun I've had all day. I could do this forever. Don't look too hard for the explanation. It's usually pretty obvious, because in behavior, whether it's dogs or people or anything else, behavior is lawful. Everything is done for a reason. When you figure out the reason, you can solve the behavior problem. Okay.
Hey, Deb, we did have a question come in quickly about a dog and exercising, and really how much exercise should your dog have a day?
Okay. I actually saw a webinar about a week and a half ago, and I heard the best explanation I have ever heard for this. And if I can remember the vet, there was a vet that was talking. I think it was Dr. Foote, but I could be wrong on that. So a really good rule of thumb is take the dog's weight. Let's say you have a 25-pound dog. A 25-pound dog needs 25 minutes of leash walking per day. Is a really good place to start. And it doesn't have to be in one walk. Actually, it's probably better if it's spread out over like 2 walks, maybe even 3. But that's the best rule of thumb I've ever heard, I've heard yet, I should say, in terms of how much exercise does a dog need. If you have a large breed or a very, very small breed, so if you have like a Newfie or you've got a little Chihuahua or something that kind of extremes, it's a good question to run by your vet. and say, based on this breed, this age, the dog's condition, can they make a recommendation as well? Or you can I like to take my vet questions with things that I think might be the answers to kind of guide the conversation. So I would say, I have a 30-pound, 6-month-old dog. Can I walk him a half an hour a day? And see what your vet says.
All right, and that was our last question for now, but just a reminder that if you do have a question, to click the questions tab on your dashboard, type in your question, and we'll communicate them to Deb.
Yes, please. It'll make it feel more interactive for me. Talking to a screen's kind of weird to me still. Okay, so we talk about how do owners contribute to dogs misbehaving. And again, I'm not the kind of trainer that blames people. Some of the things that we do in response to bad behavior makes complete sense to us and makes no sense to the dog, and can confuse the dog, and then the dog gets a message we didn't intend. So we've actually made things worse. So kind of have that in mind as we talk about this. So we reward bad behavior with attention. One thing to understand is, to your dog, looking at your dog and going, "I love you," and going, "You're a jerk," has the exact same feeling to a lot of dogs. You looked right at them, you might have touched them, you sounded excited, and you did it in response to something they did. You give a very mixed message when you reward behavior with attention. I see it especially with jumping. I see it a ton with barking. We talked about this a little bit already. When you don't control the environment, you're setting your dog up for failure. Puppies should not have access to children's toys. They should not have, in the early days, I like them to be just in one room. It makes housebreaking so much easier if you're not looking in every room in your house for your puppy where they've wandered off to. Because with a puppy, I will tell you, during a lesson, even in a Zoom lesson, I can get a sense of when I see a puppy wander off, I assume they're looking for a place to pee. I will stop the lesson and say, "Where'd your puppy go? Does he need a potty break? Take him on a potty break." It's a very, very common thing. Another area where not controlling the environment can really be a problem, and that's with dogs who steal things off counters. If you know your dog has discovered his or her little nose is high enough to get the edge of your counter, you need to control that counter. You need to make sure the food on the counter is not easily accessible, and you are in the room anytime there's food out. And when you're done, put the food away. Once a dog discovers there's really cool things on the counter, it can become a repetitive behavior. And one thing to understand about dogs, much like with children, right? So children and athletes, they practice, they ride bikes, they play sports, they practice to get better at what they do. Dogs who practice behaviors like jumping on people, stealing things off the counter, they just get better at it. I've worked with counter surfers where you don't even see them coming. They're like a sneak attack. They're up there, they've got the loaf of bread, they're off before you even knew they were in the kitchen. We need to control the environment to control the dog's behavior. If we don't meet our dog's physical needs, they will find a way to meet those needs, okay? If you don't give your dog enough exercise, they might drive you crazy running around the house. They might drive you crazy stealing things and getting you to chase them. They have physical needs. They have a need for physical exercise, mental stimulation, food, water, to be able to relieve themselves, access to enriching environments. They're basic needs we need to meet. And if we don't meet the needs, the dogs will find a way to meet their own needs. Mental challenge, similar vein. I have yet to meet a dog who does not enjoy training if it's positive training and there's rewards to be had. Dogs like to work. They like to interact with their people. And I'm generalizing here a little bit. There are some dogs that have fear issues, and we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But by and large, dogs like a good challenge. We expect the dog to know things automatically. We ask for things we haven't trained. We assume the dog speaks English. And that's one of the things where I say, when I sound like I'm being a smart aleck, I'm being completely serious on this one. We think dogs speak English. They don't. We teach them certain sound patterns have certain meanings that lead to certain rewards, but they don't speak English. And understanding that and where this really comes into play, when you're interacting with your dog, when you're training your dog, you don't need complete sentences. You don't even need phrases in a lot of cases. A lot of times, your body language, maybe a hand signal and a single word or two conveys the message. But meanwhile, we're speaking in paragraphs. And when I'm working with clients to really illustrate this point, if you can picture the Peanuts cartoons, right? Charlie Brown. when the parents or the teachers are speaking in the Charlie Brown cartoons on TV, the characters hear wah, 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 right? When you are talking to your dog in sentences and paragraphs, that's what your dog hears. And they just kind of wait for any sound they recognize. But after a couple words, they usually tune us out because we say a million words a day that have zero meaning to our dogs. But we're surprised when they don't listen to us. It's kind of on us. And the last one, this one, when we use punishment to control the dog, yes, punishment can work to stop a behavior. I don't use punishment in my training, but it can be effective. And there's all different kinds of punishment. But here's the problem with punishment. It teaches the dog, or it stops a behavior. It says, don't do that, but it doesn't tell the dog what to do. So then the dog is left going, okay, well, that didn't work. What else can I try? Maybe I'll try this. I'll try that. It's just not effective. It's less than half of the equation. So relying on punishment is not going to get you there with probably most dogs, if not all dogs.
Hey, Deb, we do have some questions coming in.
Great.
So one of our questions is, besides removing things from the counter, what's the best way to manage counter surfing?
So when I'm working with clients, I like to get people thinking along the lines of replacement behaviors, right? So you can replace going in the kitchen with the dog is not allowed in the kitchen. You can put up a gate. You can replace begging at the counter with go to your place in the kitchen and lay on that mat and stay there. And when you teach a dog a place command and you reward the heck out of going to your place, when the dog's left with the choice, go to the counter where 95% of the time I get nothing, or go to my mat and lay there where 95% of the time I get paid, they're going to choose that behavior. So manage the environment, supervise, and reward it a behavior that's incompatible with counter surfing. I would also throw in a leave it command. Leave it means it's not yours, it's mine. Don't even try it. Look at me. And then I always add a directional, go to your bed, come to me, something like that.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay. Okay, trying to move the screen ahead. Okay, so how to prevent the behavior. Let me just talk about this. Okay, control the environment. Crates, a gated community, which basically means you put puppy gates up or baby gates up so the dog can't wander into areas it shouldn't be. Critical for house training. If you let your puppy or your newly adopted dog have full run of your house training is going to make you bananas. You don't want any parts of that. Control the resources. There's different versions of this concept. Some are called learn to earn. Nothing in life is free. But basically what I like to do is I like to put what the dog wants on a contingency. If you want to go outside, you sit at the door. If you sit at the door, I'll open the door. If you jump at me or jump at the door or bark, I don't even hear you. Have dogs work for their food. Have dogs work for their toys. A game of fetch should involve, I believe, sitting, dropping, coming, bring the ball back to the owner, not playing tug of war. When you put rules and boundaries in place for your dog to follow, all of this tends to get much better pretty quickly. The next one is really kind of the core of how I teach. When I work with people, I like to teach dogs a handful of commands. They don't need a whole repertoire of 50 different behaviors they can do, but I like to teach behaviors that will work for me. And those behaviors are sit, lay down, come, drop it, leave it, and stay. Those couple of commands will get you out of almost every jam that you could get into with a dog. They are behaviors that are incompatible with nuisance things like jumping, stealing things from counters, running away, chewing on things, going after children's toys, running out the front door. They're pretty much my go-to for how to get your dog to really listen to you and offer behaviors that you like, because if you teach those behaviors and you reinforce the heck out of them, so in my vocabulary with clients, I use the phrase pay your dog, pay him, right? Your dog sits, pay him. What that means is food is a currency that makes the most sense to most dogs. Your dog does something you want, they get paid. If you pay your dog for doing those core behaviors, when your dog's not sure what to do, their brain goes to what worked last time. And that's usually what the dog chooses. And the best example for anybody who has trained a dog or a puppy using food, where first they learn sit, and then from there they learn down, right? You take the food from their nose straight down to the floor and they fold down. Normally they get sit pretty quickly, and it takes them 2 or 3 times as long to learn down. Usually from there, we'll move to another command, and invariably, almost without fail, whatever it is, like I say, it's a stay. We tell the dog to stay, and the dog lays down. And they lay down because I really got paid a lot for laying down. That must be what they want, because I have no idea what this other command is. So behavior that's rewarded is repeated. It's a pretty simple statement. Again, it goes back to behavior is lawful. You want to prevent the dog from practicing behaviors that don't work for you. Again, that's where something is simple. And this is, again, where I'm going to sound like a smart aleck, but if your dog is doing something you don't like, have you tried putting a leash on your dog? Whether it's going for the counter, whether it's jumping on people, whether it's getting on the couch. A lot of times you put a leash on a dog, the dog goes, oh, I'm not in control anymore. I should listen to you. Or they just physically can't go do what they want to do. So you're preventing that behavior. You're not letting them master something you don't want them to get good at. Meet your dog's exercise needs. That's one where when I see especially a teenage dog and the dog is getting in trouble around the house, one of my first questions is always, how much exercise does it get and what kind? And let me give you a little spoiler alert here. When you put your dog in the yard, in your fenced yard, and leave them out there to run around, even play with other dogs, they don't generally self-exercise. You put them out there, they wander around, they sniff. Okay, it's not the same as a leash walk. So even if you fence your yard, expect to still need to walk your dog. That's really where you're going to get a huge bang for your buck, rather than just leaving them in the yard to leave it to themselves. It's kind of like with us. I'm a big Peloton fan, and I get on my Peloton bike and I do whatever the instructor says. And if I get on my Peloton bike and I don't do an instructor ride, it's not nearly the same workout. Dogs are the same way. Your dogs.
We have some questions that are coming in. Okay. One of them is, someone asked if you could repeat that list of commands.
Sure. Sit, lay down, come, drop it, leave it, and stay.
All right. And someone else is asking, can you provide some examples of enrichment for your dogs?
Sure. So a simple enrichment is when you take your dog on a walk, give them sniff breaks. The walk should be for their enjoyment, for their benefit. The goal is to tire them out. If you let them sniff, they're physically exercising and they're mentally exercising. And it's a great way to get more bang for your buck in a walk. Food puzzles, frozen Kongs. I tell my puppy clients, go out and get a couple of the Kong toys. They're like, yay big or so. They look like little honeycombs. They're red, or for puppies, they're pink or blue. And put the dog's food in some water and some peanut butter, mix it up, stick it in that Kong and put it in the freezer. It becomes a puppy pacifier. It becomes I'm working from home. I have a conference call with my boss. I need you quiet. Here's your breakfast and a frozen toy. Enjoy. Okay. Training is enrichment. And there's all different kinds of training you can do. It doesn't have to be formal command training. Right now, we're taking part in a worldwide challenge called Sexier Than a Squirrel. And it's all about building behaviors like coming back to the owner and proximity, staying near the owner. And it's a very different way to train. And you're just teaching your dog, when you're within, say, 6 feet of me, great things happen. There's tons and tons of different kinds of training. Enrichment could be taking them new places. Take them to new parks, take them to, new environments, take them swimming, maybe not now, but take them swimming when it's warmer, that kind of thing.
All right. We do have another question that came in and asked how to deal with a stubborn breed as far as exercise.
Stubborn is always something that I kind of bristle at, because like, well, there's not too many breeds that I would say are absolutely stubborn. Okay. The only one honestly that comes to mind is St. Bernards. St. Bernards and Great Pyrenees to some extent. Dogs that are meant to be independent, right? Their original purpose in life was to be out away from the human, guarding livestock, and to be independent. They can be a bit challenging. But at the end of the day, every dog has to eat and every dog will work for food. Now, I'm not suggesting you deprive your dog of food, but what I would say is if feeding time becomes training time, and the way the dog gets their breakfast or their dinner is out of your hand and working with you, and you make it fun, your dog is most likely going to be into that. As far as exercise, if you have a dog that doesn't have stamina or gets really tired or just doesn't seem to want to walk, that's something that might be worth a discussion with your vet, because without knowing what breed they were talking about, I can't say for sure, but sometimes what we think is stubborn is actually something medical or something else going on. And we're going to talk a little bit about that towards the end as well, in terms of when we think a dog is being stubborn and they're actually being fearful. So like, let's see if I'll kind of revisit that towards the end. And if we need to go more deeper into that question, we can. How's that?
All right. And we'll do one last question and I'll let you move forward. This actually is a very popular question that's coming in. And a lot of people are wondering why dogs lick a lot.
Okay. So licking can be, well, one, let's look at the most obvious answer. Why do they lick? Because the thing they're licking tastes good. Let's not overthink that one too much. Okay. If they're licking things that are non-food items like walls or furniture or carpet, look to see if there's food remnants like on the carpet. Okay. If the answer is no, that's something I would flag to your vet. Sometimes dogs licking inanimate objects, non-food objects, is a sign of GI distress. So definitely flag that one to the vet. If they're licking paws or they're licking their legs, so licking can be a sign of allergies, especially on paws. If they're licking long bones, so by long bones, I mean the bones in their front paws, right? So our equivalent of our wrists or our legs, that can be a sign of pain. My 15-year-old Pepper has terrible arthritis, and I can tell when it's acting up because she licks her wrists big time. Licking as an enrichment exercise, and I do recommend that. There's a thing called a licky mat. You can get them on Amazon, and basically they're plastic textured flat sheets that you put liquid or like pasty dog food or peanut butter on, and dogs just like to lick it. But if you're talking about body parts, I would refer that to a vet. It could be allergies, it could be pain, it could be some dogs have compulsive behaviors around licking. Dobermans are known to flank sucking, which is where they lick their sides and suck on their sides. That's a repetitive behavior that you see in Dobermans.
All right, thanks, Deb.
Sure. The last thing about meeting your dog's needs, and this is one that I've hit many, many times in my career. You have a puppy, things are going great. You bring the puppy home, the breeder says, give the puppy half a cup of food 3 times a day, and your puppy is 8 weeks old and like 10 pounds. Well, fast forward a couple weeks and your puppy is now 16 weeks old and 20 pounds, and you're still feeding it half a cup of food 3 times a day. Sometimes really mouthy, determined, barky, frustrated, angry looking puppies are saying, I'm hungry, can I have some more food? And this is one where it just, in the course of having a puppy, there's a lot of things to remember, a lot of things to do. And sometimes checking the back of the bag to make sure you're feeding enough kind of falls off the radar. So it could be something as simple as that. Okay. All right, let's go into some examples. I tried to think of what are some of the common examples that people come up with challenging behaviors. So In a nutshell, you want to train behaviors you want more of. And again, some of my go-tos: sitting, go to your bed, crate or place, lay down, come when called. Don't give your dog a chance to get better at misbehaving. Okay, don't let those habits sink in, because once those things become hardcore ingrained habits, they get harder to fix. Okay, jumping. Super common in puppies. Word of warning to everyone with an adorable little puppy who's cute, and people don't mind when the puppy jumps on them because he's a little fluff ball and he's little and it's wonderful. Nobody is going to say they don't mind when they're wearing white pants and your cute little guy has muddy paws. If anybody says, oh, I don't mind if he jumps on me, tell them I do, and don't let it happen. Sitting for greeting, polite behavior. With jumping, if you didn't ask for it, because some people will say, but I like when my dog jumps on me. Great, cue it. Up. That can be the cue you're allowed to jump on me. But if you didn't ask for it, don't accept it. Ignore it, walk away, don't take the paws when they jump up. All of that says any behavior when a dog jumps on you and you acknowledge it with an angry voice or a happy voice or a knee to the chest or a shove off, your dog went, hey, that worked. I wanted attention. I got it. I'm going to do it again. Okay. Ask for something else before the dog jumps. Sit. Go get me a toy. Teach your dog to go get you a toy. For whatever reason, a dog with a toy in their mouth is less likely to jump up. It's a simple replacement behavior. You can also distract your dog from you, right? Just draw their attention to the floor. A dog who is looking down can't be jumping up at the same time. Something as simple as dropping treats, kibble. Oh, hi, drop. The dog's gonna go, yeah, catch you in a minute. I'm gonna eat the food first. Okay. The command to focus on for jumping is sit. All right, let's talk about chewing. This is one that sometimes humans struggle with a little bit. How long is my dog gonna chew? Forever. My 15-year-old has nubs for teeth. If I bring out a new toy or bone, she's all over it. She's gonna chew. She barely has any teeth. She's gonna chew. Puppies especially need to chew. Chewing relieves stress. It makes those sore teeth feel better. It can help a dog relax. It's not a bad behavior, okay? The trick with chewing is you want to make sure you're supervising. If your dog can get to something illegal to chew on, it's your fault, not theirs. You need to make sure you control that environment again. Puppies like shoes. Puppies like things that are leather, especially. They taste good, right? Don't look for the really complicated explanation. Why does my puppy chew my leather sandals? They taste good. Supervise. Gates, crates, even tethers. Put a leash on and tether your dog to, let's say, the kitchen table so the dog can't wander into the family room. Then he can't chew on the family room furniture or the remote, that kind of a thing. Make sure you have ample, exciting, safe chew toys. Benny Bones are phenomenal. You can get them on Amazon. They make them for puppies as well as adult dogs. Nyla Bones can be good. Antlers are good, but ask your vet for sure. My vet and I had a long running discussion about antlers, and she always warned they could cause fractures and they could cause problems. My guys never had a problem until Pepper turned 14, and then she did get a flat fracture. She was also 14. My guys like antlers, frozen stuffed Kongs like we talked about. KongCompany.com. That's the Kong people's website. They have videos on how to freeze Kongs, different kinds of toys they have for enrichment. Lots of great suggestions. They explain what all the different color Kongs mean. And real quick, purple ones are senior citizens. Pink and blue are for puppies. Red ones are for average chewers. Black ones are for heavy duty chewers. Pit bulls, German shepherds, that kind of a thing. Are we still there? I'm going to assume we're good.
We're good, sorry.
Okay. You want to remove tempting chew items. If your dog likes to chew on the remote, don't leave it where he can get it. Put it up high so your dog can't get to it. If your puppy is chewing on an area rug, or a mat, get rid of it for a while. Bring it back when the puppy's a little bit older. A lot of times they're new in the environment, the rug's there, it's got fringe that tastes good, feels good on the gums. Pick it up for a couple weeks and see if it gets better. Chewing, if your dog is getting into trouble chewing everything around you, try giving them some more exercise or give them some more training time. It could just be they're bored and they'll chew on what's close because it's something to do, right? We watch TV, we zone out on Netflix. Your dog goes and chews your shoes. Give them something to do. Commands to focus on is really leave it, and also I would add drop it to that as well. Leave it means it's not yours, it's mine, don't put your mouth on it. Drop it means it's in your mouth, spit it out. Really good for that. Okay. Leash pulling. Oh my goodness. Leash pulling, leash pulling. First of all, you need to train polite leash walking. Not many dogs come to you knowing how to walk on a leash. Pulling for a dog is fun, right? We're going to look for the most obvious explanation. Dogs like to pull. If you doubt me, go Google the Iditarod in Alaska and look at all those dogs who pull their people. I think it's like 1,000 miles. They pull them because it's fun. Also notice in the Iditarod, those huskies, those sled dogs, where is that line attached on those sled dogs? It's on the back. It's on the back because that gives them really good physics to pull, right? They pull this way, there's tension that way, it makes them pull more, okay? I like a no pull front clip harness. My go-to harness is called a Freedom harness. You can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Chewy. Boutique pet stores sometimes carry them as well. They're phenomenal. They hook in the front. My clients call them magic. You put it on the dog pulls a lot less. Some don't pull at all. You still need to train polite leash walking, but it can take the stress out of my dog pulls. And they also prevent dogs. Some dogs, if they have really fluffy fur, they figure out if they duck their head, they can pop out of a collar. Some dogs have long necks, so the collars just slide right off no matter how tight you make them. A well-fitting harness doesn't do that. You want to walk your dog where they can be successful. If you take your dog to the most crowded park you can find, it's full of dogs and people, and your dog doesn't know how to walk nice on a leash and has figured out the pulling works, you're going to go for a ride. They're going to have a lot of fun pulling you all over the place. Start in a calm place, reinforce polite leash walking, and then gradually take your dog to more and more challenging environments. What to train loose leash walking. There's a lot of ways to train it. But it's a critical skill, and anybody who has a puppy or a really young dog, jump on this now. It does not get easier as the dog gets bigger and stronger. Okay. All right, a couple things we're going to talk about now in terms of this is when it's not misbehaving, and I'm going to say it's not misbehaving, but it's also probably not medical. Okay, so we kind of covered what could be medical, what do you talk to your vet about, what is misbehaving, and then what's not. And this one is a really hot topic right now because I'm getting a lot of clients who have been working from home for the better part of, what are we up to, 10 months or something now? If your dog breaks out of a crate when you leave him alone, if he is housebroken and otherwise housebroken and has accidents when you're gone, or has accidents in the crate, or when you leave and the dog's not crated, it chews on windowsills or doors or furniture or the wall or tries to follow you out, all of those are red flags for you might have a separation distress problem. My recommendation for everyone I talk to, and when people call me for information from training, whether they hire me or not, I will tell people, you need to make sure your dog can be left alone safely when you leave, okay? If your dog is under a year or a year and a half old, I strongly recommend they are crate trained. A dog that is young will get into trouble because they're bored, almost a guarantee when you're gone. We want to make sure the dog is crated or safe when you leave. If your dog is not, contact a trainer immediately. If you're still working from home, you have time to fix it. There's going to be a lot of dogs that are going to get returned or rehomed when this world starts to go back to normal because they can't be left alone. Because I know when this world goes back to normal, we can all leave our houses more frequently and more easily. Everybody's going to be out, and our dogs are going to be in a bad way if they're not learning to cope with it now. Barking at visitors or strangers or dogs. Some dogs figure out when I bark, the thing I'm afraid of goes away. So you take your dog outside and your dog barks and you oh my God, no, come on, and get him out of there. you've reinforced the barking, and it's a fear-based behavior, okay? A trainer can help you figure out why is your dog barking and what to do about it. What I will say in the short term, if your dog is barking at visitors, your dog doesn't have to meet every visitor to your home. Service people, put your dog in a crate, put your dog in a bedroom with someone. They don't have to meet visitors like that. If your dog is snapping or biting people, this is not bad behavior to be corrected. There's a problem. It could be fear aggression, it could be lack of socialization. You really want to manage the environment so your dog does not get better at biting people. That will ruin your day. If your dog's afraid of the vet or the groomer or children, it could be lack of socialization. It could be fear aggression. It could be pain. It could be that the dog's got something going on with the skin, and when the groomer tries to brush it, it hurts. Okay, back to our very first couple of slides. Some dogs don't learn to be handled. They're not comfortable being handled, so they will get feisty with the groomer. They get snappy with people. It's all something you can work on with a certified, hopefully positive dog trainer, or even a vet behaviorist. With fear aggression in particular, sometimes your vet's going to recommend medication, or your vet behaviorist is going to recommend medication. Be open to the conversation, because that's not misbehaving that needs that's behavior that needs special attention, and you're not going to solve fear aggression with just training. Training is a part of the equation when I do fear aggression cases, but there's other things that have to happen. So we don't want to punish a dog for showing that he's afraid of something. This one is a hot topic for sure. Comes up a lot between separation anxiety and lack of socialization and fear aggression. It's going to be huge. And just something I want to mention at this point. So I was watching a webinar a week or two ago, and it was a vet behaviorist. So I think her name is Dr. Foote. I think that's what her name is. And she was talking about the Merck Animal Health people. So the Animal Health, the division of Merck Pharmaceuticals, did a study of new dog owners. And I didn't read the whole study. I read some of the highlights, and she was talking about the highlights. But the one that got my attention, and it's why when the Arden folks reached out to me again to do another webinar like this, I was like, yes, I'll definitely do it. Didn't even have to think twice about it, because in this study, 73% of people who were first-time dog owners who adopted a dog or a puppy during the pandemic had considered, or were actively considering, or thinking about, or planning to return the dog when the world goes back to normal, or rehome the dog when the world goes back to normal. If you've been home for 8 months and you have a dog, it's going to feel a lot different when your world goes back to normal, if that's coming for you. You're going to be surprised potentially how different your dog is when your dog's not getting 7 walks a day because you're home and bored. You might need to consider other things like dog daycare, or a dog walker, or having a relative take the dog during the day, or things to give the dog more to meet its basic needs than you're able to do when you go back to work, as opposed to when you're working from home all the time. I personally am starting to see an uptick in separation anxiety cases. I actually did a separation anxiety online workshop, because I've had so many cases and so many calls about it. With everything from tonight and everything we've talked about, the one thing I can't stress enough is don't wait to get help if you need help now. There are not too many behaviors that will magically resolve on their own. In fact, everything we've talked about tonight, I can pretty much guarantee you, is not going to resolve on its own. And the longer your dog rehearses or practices or gets these behaviors, even these emotional responses, ingrained into their personality, the harder they are to train. So even though there's a pandemic, and I know it's been really hard for people to get into dog training classes, I've suspended mine. I don't know when we're going to resume them. I'm only doing Zoom lessons, but you can cover so much in Zoom lessons. It's amazing. And I have clients that have done 8. I had someone who just bought a 6-lesson program just last night, and she's already done 4 lessons. We can cover a ton in Zoom lessons. Don't wait until you can get in-person training, because you might be frustrated. You might have a problem that's gotten really serious, and you're going to wish you would have gotten help now. And then with that, I'm happy to take whatever questions people have.
All right, Deb, we do have a bunch of questions that are coming in. So our first question is, how can dog owners work on socialization during a pandemic?
Okay, so That one, I'll admit, can be a bit tricky. In general, if you're talking about what socialization is your dog learning that new is either no big deal or it's awesome. And that new could be people, could be dogs, it could be flooring in your house, it could be seeing people on the street, it could be car rides, it could be literally anything that's new. If we talk specifically about dogs, you can do a dog daycare. A lot of dog daycares are still open. Your dog can do daycare. If you and your neighbors or friends are comfortable, being around each other, socially distant, wear a mask, start walking your dog with other dogs, get them used to that. I'm a big fan of having dogs be able to walk with other dogs, and I would probably pick that over daycare or over like a dog park if I had two options, because for the rest of my dog's life, I would love it if they could just hang out with me, walk with other dogs, no barking, no craziness. Practice it now. You have a lot of opportunity for that. In terms of people, obviously you're not going to walk your dog up to everybody you encounter. But even just having your dog out in an environment where you just you walk past people, your dog sees people, oh, that's our friend John, yep. Or if you catch your dog, notice your dog is looking at someone, you go, yes. And your dog's like, what? Piece of food. Repeat on a walk. Just take their kibble. See people, look at them, look at me, get a piece of food. It can be a great way to train a behavior that you want for the rest of your dog's life. Ignore people, ignore other dogs, focus on me. People coming in your house, that gets a bit trickier. And that's one that I think is going to be more and more of a hot topic as we go back to life and as normal. In general, what I would say is don't allow your dog to be at the door when people come in. Have your dog in another room somewhere else where they're not greeting people at the door. A lot of bad things can happen at the door with dogs. It's the border of their territory. It's a natural hotspot. A lot of bites happen in doorways. So I would, at a minimum, I would do that. And with the pandemic and being home, get creative. Get creative. Expose your dog to new sounds on YouTube or new sounds on, I can't say the word because I have one in the room, but that little device, you say the name when they play music and stuff. Those kind of things can be great too. Just embrace the concept of you want to teach your dog that new is no big deal or new makes awesomeness happen.
All right. Our next question, our guest is asking if you have any tips for getting a 5-year-old rescue to overcome her fear of water.
I guess it would depend on what kind of water. I would say if you're talking about swimming and your dog doesn't like to swim, one, your dog kind of gets to say no to that in my world. If you really wanted to try, if your dog likes other dogs, maybe take your dog to a beach on leash if they don't have a good off leash recall, and walk with other dogs. If the other dogs go in the water, see if your dog follows. I know my dog Bear really wants no parts of water, but if I take him to the beach and I'm playing fetch with Pepper and Pepper chases the ball, he chases Pepper. Pepper goes in the water every time. He'll run in the water with her and come back out. If you're talking about baths, and that gets a bit trickier, and it really depends on what does the dog do in the bath. One of the simplest things you can try, let's say you're going to do a bath. First of all, and again, this is going to sound like I'm being a smart aleck, and I don't mean it that way. When you bathe your dog, don't fill up the tub and put your dog in the tub full of water. Okay, you're literally taking the dirtiest part of your dog, the feet, putting it in the water, and then taking that dirty water and dumping it over your dog. Okay, I like to use a hand wand for bathing dogs. It's really a shower. What you can do though is take some peanut butter or some Kong Specials. Kong actually has a cheesesteak flavored squeezy tube of stuff. Put that on the wall at the opposite side of the tub from the shower. So if the handheld's here, put it on this wall and let the dog lick it while you bathe them. Try to find a way to make the dog associate water with something they love. And this is one where I don't think there's a better substitute than some sort of a food or edible product for that. And if that person has a more specific question, they're welcome to email me that question. I need a little bit more context to know what kind of water we're talking about and how long they've had the dog and what does the dog do and that kind of stuff.
Our next question is, can you train your dog to be protective? Oh, I'm sorry, one second. And not, I'm sorry, can you train your dog to be protective, or can this lead to aggression?
So protection training is not my strong suit. I don't do protection training. What I can tell you though is I had a client a number of years ago whose dog she had adopted an older dog that had been protection trained and had done Schutzen, which is bite work. Like, the guy in the big suit that the dog attacks, that's Schutzen. And her Schutzen trained, protection trained dog, when she was basically accosted by a loose dog on a walk, her protection dog ran away. So I don't know. I don't know that that's something that, as far as protection training, that I would recommend or I would do. But here's what I can tell you. If you were to come to my house right now, you would hear so much barking. It's not even funny if you rang my doorbell. I have 4 dogs. They bark and carry on. They sound vicious. They're not. They make a big racket though. For most people, if you have a dog that barks when someone comes to the door, that will deter most people from breaking into your house, I think. I hope, put it that way. Is there a risk that if you did protection training and you did not work with someone who specializes in it, could you train a dog to be aggressive towards people? I would think you probably could. In that case, I would seek out someone who does protection training, but also I would really have a long, hard think about, why do I want a dog to be a protection dog to begin with? Are you sure is how I would start my conversation with someone who wants that. Like I said, a lot of times just the size of the dog, the shape of the dog, and the racket the dog can make is enough of a protection face. But like I said, that's protection training is not my area of expertise. That's about all I can offer on that one.
Okay, thanks so much, Deb. That was our last question. That's all we had time for.
Okay. Well, if anybody needs help, I am doing lessons via Zoom. I cover almost the exact same things that I do in in-person lessons as I do in Zoom lessons. Google Pepper's Paws reviews to see the latest reviews. Everything from March is a review of a Zoom lesson, because that's all I've been doing. And if I'm happy to answer quick questions as I can as well, but I can't stress enough, guys, if you have a dog and you're having challenges and you need help, don't wait. Training is available. You have to look a little harder for it, but it's definitely available.
Thanks, Deb.
All right, thank you, Deb. I did want to mention that Arden is currently running a contest that gives members a chance to win a $200 gift card to the pet affiliated business of your choosing. Go to ardencu.org/pet contest, fill out the form, and upload a picture of your pet. All the photo submissions received by 11 p.m. on February 4th will be uploaded to Arden's Facebook on February 8th. The photo that gets the most likes by noon on Valentine's Day will be the winner. So I wanted to once again thank Deb for providing us pet parents with some great information. There will be a short survey sent out, and we would love to hear your feedback to help us improve future workshops. A link will be included in the email to submit your pet photo for our Picture Perfect Pet Contest. On Thursday, January 28th, we will be hosting another virtual workshop titled HGTV in Real Life, Planning Your Home Renovation, and we hope you can join us. Thank you for attending and have a great night.